Welcome to Spilling the Tea on Non-Monogamy with me, Gaz Darkwood. Spilling the Tea is a podcast dedicated to speaking with different people who practice non-monogamy in all of its forms to pull together as many different perspectives and experiences as possible all into one place. In each episode, I'll be joined by a different guest to talk about their own non-monogamy experience. I'm always looking for more guests, as without you, there would be no podcast. So if you would like to be a guest, please send an email to spillingtheteapodcast@outlook.com. On this episode, I am joined by Andrew.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, how's it going?
Everything is great.
Perfect. Good. That's the best way to be.
It's early, but everything is great. It's too early for anything to have gone wrong yet.
Yeah, you never know. Something could happen yet. So first off, I just want to ask you is, can you just tell me how old you are and how long you've been practicing non-monogamy?
So I am 52 years old. And I guess this question's slightly complicated because I've been part of the kink community for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And I've been with long-term partners who would play on the side. Like most of the women that I've dated were bisexual and always had a girlfriend or a playmate. And sometimes we would play together. Sometimes it was just their thing. It's officially been 10 months that I've been in a relationship with someone else who actually had a nesting partner, and it has been a learning experience.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question, actually, was can you tell me a bit about your current situation?
So my current situation, my partner, we have a couple challenges. She is 1,000 miles away, so we spend a lot of time on airplanes. Zipping back and forth to see each other. We're fortunate enough that we travel for work, so we have the opportunity to either meet up in either one of our home cities or we can meet someplace else out on the road. There's also a 22-year age difference between us.
Yeah, so that makes things, I guess, are you at different points in your lives, or did the different lifetime experiences you've had change anything or interfere with your compatibility in any way?
I think the different life experiences help us. Plus, I grew up on the East Coast of the United States in very metropolitan areas. I spent my adult life in New York, Philadelphia, D.C. She is from a very, very small town in the western portion of the country. So life experiences are completely opposite.
Yeah. So even regardless of the 22-year age gap, you've got different experiences anyway, that the age gap doesn't actually factor into it that much.
Exactly. It just kind of multiplies it.
Yeah, that's understandable. So, can you talk a little bit about what got you into this situation? You say about previously you had partners like who were bisexual and had other partners, and I understand the whole thing within the kink scene that people tend to be a bit more open with maybe not romantic relationships or even sexual play, but with like kink play with other people outside of relationships. So did that have a hand in you like beginning to enter into non-monogamy?
So this was completely different. My partner of 12 years passed away 5 years ago.
Sorry to hear that.
I kind of thought, well, at this point in my life, I'm very fortunate. I've had wonderful women. I don't have the emotional capacity for a relationship.
Yeah.
And the way I met my current partner was very interesting. I was playing around one night and called a phone chat line, like an adult-based phone chat line. And she was on there not only because she was interested in kink, but she thought, you know what, this is a fun way to make money. And we hit it off. And I thought, this is great. She was very open about being poly. And I thought, this is great. I have this wonderful woman who I've connected with, and there's some distance, and I don't have to invest anything emotionally. And I didn't expect it to develop into anything.
think that's the thing with especially with, say, non-monogamy in general, maybe specifically polyamory, that multiple people that I've talked to, and even from my own experiences, that you can be just not looking for anything, and something just comes along, and then you're like, no, I'm not ready for, say, an emotional relationship, romantic relationship, or anything, and then things just develop in such a way that leads toward that, and you didn't expect it, you didn't plan it. But I always think that actually that's the best way for a relationship to blossom, is because it happened organically. It wasn't no one was going in with
Exactly.
any expectations and pushing it in a particular direction. It's just because that's what works for you both, and I think that's a really good thing.
Exactly. And a month into it, we were both kind of grappling with, holy cow, I'm in love with this person and I can't admit it. This is crazy.
But I guess you were both in the same boat with that, so it's, I mean, it could be a completely different situation if one of you was feeling that and the other one wasn't. But it obviously says something about the connection that you have together, that you were both feeling that same thing.
Exactly. Exactly. And we were laughing about it the other day because it was like, yeah, you have no idea how much I was struggling. I almost, belted out, I love you. And, I held back and I got off the phone with you. And it was just a really long night. It was some interesting emotions. And when you find yourself falling in love with someone is sleeping in a bed with someone else, and you're not accustomed to that mindset, it throws you into kind of it threw me into an emotional turmoil.
Yeah, yeah, I understand that. It's something that you'll never. I mean, I've talked about this on previous episodes, but the fact that we're not necessarily even taught monogamy. We're just led to believe pretty much from birth that that's just the way things are. And the whole idea of your partner being with someone else is supposed to be horrifying, and it's something that you should never be comfortable with, and is a really bad thing. So I think it is shocking when you first start coming to terms with trying to dismantle some of those ways of thinking. Thinking that, like, no, someone that I'm in love with, how can I possibly cope with them sleeping in the same bed with someone else? Because my whole life I've been led to believe that that's one of the worst things that can ever happen. It's interesting how when you get into the sort of psychological aspects of that, how much sort of you have to untangle your way of thinking from what you've always been led to believe.
So those feelings, and it's hard to differentiate between what's envy and what's jealousy, because I
Yeah,
learned that, okay, some of these things that I'm feeling, it's not just that you're having physical relationships with someone else. It's the mundane things. How come he gets to go to the grocery store with you? How come you're cooking dinner with him every night? And I love her enough that I've gone into therapy with someone who specializes in alternative relationships.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a really good that's a really good thing to say to anyone that's trying to understand this stuff. Really, is like, it's you can't understate the importance of actually doing therapy. And a lot of learning about this stuff with non-monogamy isn't the actions of physically doing things, but a lot of it is inward, and having to do the work on yourself to put yourself into a position where you can actually cope with these things, and you can understand it, and you can handle things, and you can manage your own emotions and your own thoughts. And a therapy is a good way of doing that.
And I think a huge awakening was realizing, okay, there's a difference between envy and jealousy.
Yeah, yeah, that's something that I always say to people, actually, that or at least the way that I see it, envy and jealousy. So an example for me would be, jealousy would be me saying, I don't like the fact you're doing this thing with this other person. And envy would be, I don't like the fact that you're doing this thing with this other person. I wish you were also doing it with me. Or I wish I could also be getting that from you, which I think is very different. Jealousy is, you're doing this with someone else, I don't want you to be doing it with someone else. Envy is, yeah, you're doing it with someone else, and that's okay, but it just highlights the fact that you're not doing that with me at the moment, and it just makes me want that more.
Sure, exactly. And I've met her nesting partner several times, and he's a nice guy. But his girlfriend lives in an apartment that they own that's connected to their home. So there is that envy. Okay, well, he has both these partners at his disposal 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I
And
understand. So in a way, you're kind of jealous of him, not because he gets to spend lots of time with your partner, but just because he's someone that has two partners around all the time, whereas you don't have any partners nearby.
exactly. And we had long discussions, and she egged me on to date. And when I
Yeah,
did meet someone a couple months ago who was interested, it turned into a very emotional, very long conversation. I mean, 12 hours of, I feel hypocritical, but if you're intimate with someone else or have another partner taking your time, I'll be jealous.
yeah. I think that's one of the things that I think it's a common myth about non-monogamy or is that people think jealousy is a bad thing, and like, well, you shouldn't be jealous. Everyone should be allowed to do their own thing, and you just need to be okay with it. And I think that's a fallacy, because I think you can't control jealous feelings, they're or envious feelings. They're just something that comes along. You can't control that. It's all emotion based. But what you can do is you can work on how you react to those feelings and what you do about it. Like, it's not a bad thing to feel jealous, but it can be a bad thing to start telling someone else that you need them to change the way they do things because you're feeling jealous over it.
Exactly. And you hit it on the nose. It is how you need to learn how to process your feelings yourself. I mean, you can work together on that, and it's a lot of communication. There's a phone call once a week that, okay, well, I'm feeling this, or, we always at least have a video call on Friday night, and I missed it this week because you had a family obligation with your long-term partner.
Yeah.
I say all the time, you know what? I knew when I met you, this is the situation that I was signing up for.
Yeah.
So fortunately, the relationship is worth dealing with those struggles.
And that's the thing, isn't it? That's there's always everyone has their own limits and everyone has their own boundaries, and at the end of the day, it's down to you to understand what you are comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with. But I think, say, another sort of thing that's thrown around with non-monogamy is that you have to put up with any behaviors of the other person. Like, you just have to deal with it. That's what being in a non-monogamous relationship is. Your other partner's going to do X, Y, and Z. You have to be ready for that. But actually, no, I think the thing is that you only have to live within your own comfort levels and within your own boundaries. And if you're not happy anymore, you don't have to stay in a relationship that you're not completely happy with.
Exactly. And I'm fortunate having a partner who can communicate and who actually listens and validates your feelings. And because she's been with her nesting partner for a long time, about close to a dozen years. And it was his idea to have ethical non-monogamy. And she said,
Yeah.
everything that you're feeling, I have probably struggled with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the thing as well, that comes into communication, is that at the end of the day, I think most people that are in non-monogamous situations have probably all had the same feelings at some point. So as long as you can communicate well and talk to each other, you can say to your partner, hey, just so you know, I'm feeling X. And then they can probably relate to it because they probably felt X at some point in the past as well. So not only are they going to be thinking, oh, well, you're saying this thing, I don't understand it because I don't feel that. Odds are they can probably relate to it and be like, okay, yeah, this is that. When I was going through X, this is how I was feeling. This is what I needed. Therefore, I know how to help you with it.
Exactly. And it's nice to be able to say, okay, this is what's going through my head now. Have you experienced or do you have suggestions on how to help me cope with this?
Yeah, I can imagine that that's a big help. And that's the thing as well, that you're not saying, I think this is a thing with, especially with jealousy, that people will point the blame on the other person, but really it's not. Like your own jealousy is your feelings, it's your emotions, and it's for you to deal with. And the best thing you can do is not point blame at the other person, but just ask them for help and just say like, look, I'm going through this thing. Can you help me with it? These are the things I might need, or can you give me any advice? Let's communicate. We're in this together.
I think another challenge that and making this realization has helped me incredibly. You can't compare your partner's other relationships to yours because, of course, everybody's different.
Yeah.
And what her and I have is completely different than what her and her nesting partner have.
Yeah. Yeah, I think something that some people tend to do, especially when early on first getting into practicing non-monogamy, is they maybe see different relationships as competition. Like, oh, well, you have got this with your other partner, therefore I want to also have this with you. Or, oh, well, you do these things together, I want to also be able to do those things with you. And I think a good thing that's worth learning early on is actually all relationships are different, and you shouldn't be looking at what someone's done with someone else and want the same thing. It should be actually about what's good for the relationship between the two of you. What do you need? And it can be simple things like your partner and their nesting partner may enjoy something simple, playing Scrabble together. Well, if you're not interested in Scrabble, don't force that. Don't go, oh, well, you play Scrabble with your other partner, so therefore you should play Scrabble with me. Well, actually, maybe you and your partner prefer playing Monopoly, and you could play Monopoly together. And like, it doesn't have to be the same. You've got within your relationship, you've got your own shared interests, and within their relationship, they've got their own shared interests, and they don't have to align with each other. And actually, it's kind of healthy for like someone in your partner's position to have different people that they can have different shared interests with.
Exactly, and our interests are. The interests she shares with her nesting partner are 180 degrees away from what her and I share.
Exactly. Yeah, that kind of proves the point, really. Yeah, exactly.
So, and I like seeing her happier. And she's like, what, this is the part of me that I never was able to focus on before.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of learning. And this is something that I think some of these things that you learn in non-monogamy, I think, are things that actually every person, every human being on earth should learn, which is things like that. Like, you don't have to be everything to everyone, or you don't have to be one person's everything. And actually, there's kind of a freedom that comes from that. Like, if not even a partner, but a friend says to me, like, oh, I want to I want to go and see this live music act. Do you want to come with me? Well, actually, no, that's not my thing. Like, can you find someone else who will go with you? And then, like, that's such a big weight lifted. I don't have to be that thing for you. I don't have to force myself to fit into this hole that you need filling. You can find someone else to do that, and that's fine.
It's funny because one of my best friends is a woman I dated throughout my 20s. And after the two of us split up, she started dating someone who was older and established and very much an academic. And at the same time, she was dating someone her own age who had liked to play video games with her and wanted to travel with her and do things that, people in their late 20s do. And she told both of them, it's either I get a piece, and I didn't understand it completely at first. But she said it's either both of you or neither of you. You both fill a part of me that needs to be filled. And at that point, I never pictured myself being in that kind of situation, but it really makes a lot of sense to me now.
Yeah, and I like I say, I think this is a thing that everyone could do with learning and understanding, and not even in romantic relationships or anything. But I like, say if I like to play video games, and I've got one friend that doesn't like to play video games, that's fine. I won't do that with them. I've got another friend who does like to play video games, and I'll do it with them. I don't need, but that doesn't mean that I don't need the first friend, because I get other things from them, and you just get different things from different people. And when it comes to friendships, I think that's generally fine, and people understand that. But when it comes to romantic or sexual relationships, it tends to blow people's minds, and they think, no, it has to be one person for all of these things. Which, I think is something that people just could do with unlearning.
And it's funny because we learn both of those things when we're children. That, okay, you find one singular partner to share this intimate side of your life with, but you can have a huge variety of friends.
Yeah, and that's normal, and that, at least that's what we're told is normal from, like you say, from an early age, from when we're born. And it's not that we're even necessarily told it anymore. It's just that that's how the world is when we watch TV or we see people in day-to-day life. Like, everyone's doing the same thing. The majority of people have one monogamous romantic partner, or who is their only romantic partner, their only sexual partner. But they have multiple different friends that they can see at different times of the week for different lengths of time and do completely different things with. And it's kind of strange to me, at least looking back. Obviously, we all bought into that probably for a good chunk of our lives because we didn't know any different. But looking back, it's kind of like, oh yeah, that seems quite obvious that doesn't really make sense.
And I'm not even sure if this is a strictly masculine trait. I don't want to come off sounding sexist or anything. When I've had partners in the past who wanted to play with a same-sex partner, there was never any jealousy. I never gave it a second thought. Yeah. But if she had come to me and said, you know what, there's this man I'm interested in, we're going to go out to dinner, it's probably going to lead to something else, that would have changed the entire game. All of a sudden, it would have been, okay, well, there's an emotional component here that scares me.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's quite common, actually. And I think, this is my own personal theory, the reason behind that is because if you're in a relationship, say, you're a male in a relationship with a female, and they want to have this extra thing with another female, well, that's such a different side, separate kind of thing. I think your brain can see it in a way as it's okay because it's its own different self-contained thing. But if they want to do it with another man, your brain can't get around that because it's like, hang on, no, but I am the man in the relationship with you. And so why do you need more of that? Because it's this weird monogamous programming we've all had since birth that you should be everything to this person in terms of what they need in a man. Therefore, why would they need another one?
Sure, and I struggle with, is it the competitive nature of it? Is it just, okay, well, this is another man encroaching on my territory, but I don't feel, and that's why I came, I don't want to come off sounding like, all right, well, this is just a sexist way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it is inherently sexist. I think it is it's more to do with that monogamous programming, and especially like if you are heterosexual, I think to you, like say your bisexual partner, for instance, wants to explore something with a woman, your heterosexual brain can't necessarily read it in the same way. But when they want to do something with a man, you're like, no, but hang on, this is I'm here. This is what I'm here for. You can't see it in the same way. That's what I kind of think it is.
Exactly, and you don't see it in the same way and I had always looked at it as, okay, well, I'm super open and I don't want to take this part away from you. This is part of your sexuality, and it was just completely non-threatening.
Yeah, and I think so with the whole, say if you've got a bisexual partner and they're the opposite sex to you, so say you're a man and you have a female partner, and you can understand that, oh, well, they're bisexual, they're into men and women, they're missing out on a big lot of experiences because they can't be with a woman while they're with me. So them also being with a woman means they get everything they need. They get to fill the man-sized hole they have, and they get to fill the women's-sized hole that they have. But then if there comes into another man comes into the mix, that's where it's strange, because like, no, hang on, I'm already filling the man-sized hole for you. Why do you need another one? And I don't think that's anything that's just, again, that monogamous programming that you just think that, hang on, I need to be everything to this person. I need to be everything, and they shouldn't need more outside of me. Yes, if they need a woman, I can't provide them that because I'm a man. They also need a woman. If they need a man, well, they should be coming to me. I should be the one that has to provide all of their needs that way, which, is that monogamous programming that is really hard to sort of to unlearn.
Right. And I think what has helped is, even when it comes to sex, my partner has kinks that her partner's not willing to fulfill.
Yeah.
So I kind of have to look at it the same way. It's like, okay, well, there's two different sides of you that need to be fulfilled, and I'm just kind of thankful that, because they're such an amazing person, that, you know what, I'm glad that I'm the one that matches with you and that you pick to they can fill these needs.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a thing that can be hard to see or to think about, but something that I think is always worth paying attention to in like non-monogamous situations. When you have a partner who also has another partner or is also seeing other people, they are still seeing you. They are still interested in you. They're not picking this other person in place of you at all. It's as well. And I think that's something that, again, because everyone's brought up monogamous, and cheating is so normalized in media. Constantly, you see things on TV about people having affairs and people cheating.
Oh, in my own life, I see it.
You. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it drills in this idea that if your partner is doing something with someone else, that means actually, because they're not interested in you anymore, they're losing feelings for you, and they're going to end up breaking up with you for this other person instead. And I think that, as much as that's not normal, and I wish it wasn't normal, I think we all just have that deep-rooted thing just because of the way the world revolves around monogamy, and that we're all brought up with and shown those things from birth, and we see it. So when your partner is interested in someone else, there's some deep subconscious thing in you which just thinks about those things, of people having affairs, people cheating, and it's kind of fight or flight response where your brain goes, hang on, this means they're not interested in me anymore. This means they're going to leave me. And that's, again, something that we all need to work on, to be like, no, it's okay. They're still here. They're still here for me. They just have this other thing as well.
Now, in all honesty, I've still, and this is one of the things that I'm working through in therapy, any intimacy that she has with her other partner, I kind of had to say, okay, well, I can't know. I don't want to know. And it's almost like there's part of me that, okay, I'm in denial that this is happening or this exists. But we're making steps on that. And she's been incredibly understanding and understood that, the first time I found out, okay, I can't lay in bed here by myself at night and saying, gee, I wonder if they're having sex tonight. She didn't answer my text message. Something's going on.
Yeah.
And for a couple months, it would sit there and absolutely destroy me.
Yeah. I think, so there's a couple of things there. I think in terms of the whole, say, partners being intimate with their other partners, I think you and this is, again, a thing that I think is harmful to people who are just exploring non-monogamy for the first time, or just reading up about it, or just trying to get some information. A lot of people seem to say that you have to be okay with everything. You can't feel jealous. You have to be okay with everything. It doesn't matter what your partner's doing. And you have to just be, yes, your partner's having sex with their other partner, and you just have to be okay with that. And as much as that is true to an extent, that doesn't mean it's nice to hear from everyone. It doesn't mean it's nice for everyone to think about. And I think actually it's probably quite few and far between how many people, if you say to your partner, oh, what did you do last night? And they said, oh yeah, I just spent the night having sex. I don't think many people are doing that, because most people are keeping their sex lives between them and the person they're being intimate with. I think people don't tend to share those things anyway. So I think that's kind of normal to not want to hear those things or to not want to think about it. The second thing that I'd say around what you said is that this thing of, like saying like, oh, I sent them a message and they didn't respond. Oh, does that mean that they're, busy with their other partner having sex? It could mean that, but it could mean a million different things. Like they could be busy with their partner, literally just sat having dinner together or sat watching TV together, or maybe it's not even that. Maybe they're out with a friend, or maybe it's not. Maybe they're reading a book and they've just put their phone down and they're really engrossed in the book. They haven't picked it up.
Right, and life's busy,
But
and
there are so
that
many different reasons. Like
99% of the time, that is the reason. But of course, being human, the brain automatically goes to your most dreaded scenario.
Yeah, definitely. And I can understand how that's something that can just happen. And obviously, it's not nice to think about. But I think that if being in that situation, I think the best thing you could probably do is just think that, well, they could be busy doing absolutely anything, and actually it doesn't matter because this isn't time that we had scheduled for each other. I think it's different if you'd said, oh, let's catch up and have a text message conversation on this evening at this time, and they agree to it, and then they don't turn up, then they don't reply to your messages. I think that's a different scenario because that's like your quality time, which has then been taken away or undermined in some way. But I think, and this isn't just a relationship thing, if you send anyone a text message, anyone any time of day, they are under no obligation to respond within any time frame, and they could be doing absolutely anything, and I'm sure they will respond when they can.
Right, and I think another thing that I can recommend for people that's helped us tremendously, and again, my partner being so proactive about everything, we have an online calendar set up. And because there's 4 of us, it basically has, overnights put on it and date nights put on it, and everybody's always on the same page. And it's like, well, don't expect me to be here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because I'm going to be with Andrew. Or, I know you two are going off to do this. You have to fly out to see family on this date. So any contact is going to be limited. Especially because then you get into it with family, and we're experiencing that now. Her nesting partner has family in town. So again, you're grappling with, okay, well, now I'm the hidden secret because to everyone else, you're this, loving monogamous couple who only have eyes for each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's something that, it's difficult for a lot of people to come to terms with, especially in like polyamorous situations where it's not just a bit of fun or it's not just sexual. When you have those like strong romantic feelings, like, and what could probably be nice, like if you and your partner meet up and it's just the 2 of you, you can go out for dinner, and to anyone else in the world, you look like any other monogamous couple. They have no idea what's going on, and that's like that all they see is your relationship, and that's where the importance is focused on that relationship. It doesn't matter that your partner's also got a nesting partner. It doesn't matter that he's also got another partner and they live kind of together. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. When the 2 of you are together, that's what it is. That's what the relationship is. And I understand that it can be difficult. Like if other people say, if you went to her city and then you are out together and you get seen by his family, you can't be who you want to be. You can't be your authentic selves within your own relationship for fear of like being outed or outing something, which is, I imagine, not a comfortable position to be in.
Yeah, exactly. I think the advantage that we have, and again, it comes down to open communication. If I do need extra time, if I, when we were struggling over some of the time issues and everything else, 5 minutes after the conversation, I got an email with a travel itinerary, and she's, you know what, I'm coming this Friday, and we're going to have 4 days to just be together and talk and make you realize that you are a priority.
Yeah, and that's good to be able to have that. And it's very good from your partner's perspective as well to be able to pick up that, okay, you need something. Maybe it's not in my schedule at the moment, but I'll do what I can because at the moment you need me, and I want to be there for you.
Exactly. And I read so many horror stories about people whose partners have, and I'm not going to knock anybody. Whatever works for people. Everyone's different. If it was a situation where he had veto power over our relationship, or in any fashion, I don't believe that we would be successful.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. I think if I started seeing someone, or if I was talking to someone that was potential we could go somewhere, and they said, "Oh, by the way, like my nesting partner, they have veto power, so if they're not happy with this relationship developing between the two of us, and they want it to stop, it's going to stop." My first thought would be that's completely fine. I completely understand where you're coming from, but I'm telling you now, it's not going to get a chance to stop because I'm not going to let it start because I don't want to be put in that situation.
As she put it, there's no ripcord. And I didn't get it when she first said it. And I guess I had a confused look. And she said, nobody has any say over our relationship in any terms except for you and I.
And that's how any monogamous relationship would work, right? Between two people.
Exactly.
And I think that's the thing that kind of trips a lot of people up, that they think, oh, if people that are non-monogamous, they're having all these different relationships and none of the relationships are as important and everything's all casual. And I kind of think of it as 95% of the relationship you have is the same as a monogamous relationship. It's just that you can have kind of multiples of these monogamous relationships, or like, not for you personally, but for your partner. She's got one, what would be sort of a traditional monogamous relationship with her nesting partner. She's got another, what would be a traditional monogamous relationship with you. And they're both separate and they both have their own importance and they're both their own things and they don't really cross over in any way. And I think that's one thing when people look down on non-monogamy, people think everyone's just horny and just want casual sex and flings with anyone and no one wants to commit and no one puts any importance into relationships. I think that is completely wrong.
Exactly. I mean, when I was 21 or 22 years old, that's how I looked at it. It's just like, well, okay, well, this is just a friend with benefits or a fling or a one night stand.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us, as we grow older, you really crave more than that. There has to be some form of stability, but it's still possible in poly relationships.
Yeah, I mean, but also it can go. I mean, everyone's different, right? And like we talk polyamory, but non-monogamy as a whole covers so much more than just that. And I'm sure there are people out there who just want casual hookups, or they want multiple friends with benefits that they don't have any romantic ties to, or any time restraints, like having to spend a certain amount of time with people. They want it to be all casual and carefree, and I think for some people that completely works.
I'm actually a little envious to a degree of that. I wish I could be more like that.
And you're just not wired for it, and that's fine because everyone's different. And this is one of the things that I kind of want to get through to people, whoever's listening to this, who is new to non-monogamy and exploring, because it's so easy to read a book or listen to a podcast or read things online and go, oh, this is what people do, I need to be like this. But like, no, there is such a broad spectrum of ways of living a non-monogamous lifestyle. You don't have to subscribe to any one of these labels. Just take the pieces that work for you. It should be about what you want and what actually works for you. And if you think, I can't do this casual hookup thing with loads of people, I need more deep, meaningful relationships, well, that's fine. You're probably leaning more towards the polyamory end of the spectrum. Or maybe you're like, I can't manage having multiple romantic people. I don't like it. I get too jealous. But I like having the freedom to explore different casual things with different people. That's fine as well. You maybe lead towards that end of the spectrum. But if people don't know that spectrum exists, they can easily feel like they need to pigeonhole themselves into one thing, which may not actually be right for them.
Maybe it's just because I'm mentally exhausted at this point in my life. But the thought, because I could go out and date someone else, and especially with the distance, I often think, it would be nice to have somebody here close by that I could see a couple times a week. But as you said, I don't think I'm wired for that. And for me, I just don't have the capacity to dedicate to more than one person.
And that's a really good word, actually, capacity, because I think everyone's capacities are different, and not just in broad terms, but for specific things as well. Like, for instance, if you work a full-time job and you've got children at home, or if you co-parent and you have your children on weekends, or you for 1 week at a time or something, and then you've got pets, you've got dogs that need walking every day, that only leaves so much time for anything else anyway. So it's not just like, say, how many partners you've got or how many people you're seeing. You can't handle more than one or more than any number, but actually you've got all these other aspects of your life, all these other things that you're committed to, which take up your time as well. And you've only got so many hours in the day. So you need to know how much more you can actually take on to fit in with all these other things. If your schedule is already 80% of the way full before you have one partner, and then they put it up to 90% full, you've only got 10% left. Can you really fit another person into that? Or to what level could you fit another person into that?
Sure. And to my advantage, because I am a loner to some degree, it is nice to know that my partner has somebody when she wants to be occupied with something, or jump into one of these other interests that I could care less about. I mean, I care about them because she enjoys them, but not something that I'm interested in doing.
Yeah,
And it can give me a guilt-free Saturday night to just stay at home with my dog and do nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a nesting partner and I have another partner, and my other partner and I see each other once a week, but we're in contact, every day. We'll send the odd text message and things. Once a week we'll spend time together, but because she lives with her nesting partner as well, I don't feel any pressure to need to be there more, because it's not like she's sat at home with nothing to do. She's lonely. She's wanting more time with me. Like, she's already got her time full with her nesting partner. She, the same way as I've got a lot on my plate, I don't have that much time. She also doesn't have that much time. So there's at no point where either of us are wanting more because we don't feel like we've got enough, because actually both our plates are pretty full as it is. So it works out the scales are very balanced, and it works out really well.
One of the things that we got recently, they gave a really big level of comfort, were just Bluetooth bracelets that you can tap and it just vibrates on the other person's wrist. So when you have those times where they're with their other partner, or you're feeling, I hate to use the word needy, but I kind of at a lack of words right now. It's just like one little touch and it's like, hey, I'm here. I'm thinking about you. I love you. I mean, a simple buzz like that. And, you feel her touch back and a little vibration, and it's like, okay, we're still all on the same page.
Yeah, and those small things can make a difference. So I like, with both of my partners, we have this thing where there's a thing with penguins. I can't remember if it's a specific species of penguin, but where penguins will, if they see a pebble because penguins mate for life. So if they see a pebble that they think, oh, my partner will like that, they take it and give it to their partner. It's just like, look, I saw this thing and I thought of you. Or, I just to let you know that I was thinking of you. And we kind of have the same thing with just like memes or like silly videos that I'll be scrolling on social media and I'll see something and be like, oh, this person will like this. This has made me think of them. I'll send it to them. There's not even any words. I don't need to put any words in the text message. They'll just see it and see this meme or this video, and they'll know that I was thinking of them, and vice versa. Like, I check my phone and I've just been sent a random 4 memes or something, and like, there's no words. There's no like, oh, I love you or I'm missing you, but just seeing those things, like, these things made me think of you. Even though we're not together, I'm thinking of you, and here's what they are.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly.
Here's this pebble. Yeah.
It's the small gestures.
Exactly, and sometimes and especially when I think people are feeling, say, insecure or envious or jealous or anything like that, it doesn't always need to be a big conversation. Sometimes it's just a small little reminder that, like, yeah, I'm still here, I'm still thinking about you. So I've got a few questions I want
Oh, go
to
for
get
it.
through, and these will be kind of short questions. So, can you tell me what have been the most rewarding aspects of practicing non-monogamy? Like, has it helped you to think differently or helped your life in other ways?
Um, interestingly enough, my partner has so much love to give, and I feel more cared for and more loved than I did in any of my. And now I have 2 marriages behind me that both failed for various reasons. Um,
Yeah,
this is the most secure that I've ever felt.
I think that's a very good answer. Yeah, yeah, I completely get that. So following on from that, uh, is there anything that you now know? So if you could go back in time to when you were starting your non-monogamous journey, is there anything you've learned that you would do differently if you could go back?
I
This is kind of to iron out. I just want anyone who's listening, anyone that's new, what are some of the little hiccups that people may have at the start that actually, after figuring things out and understanding, you would work around them now?
I think the biggest one is the comparison that I mentioned, and just
Yeah,
realizing from the get-go, these are 2 separate relationships that really have, other than juggling the time together, they have absolutely nothing to do with each other.
yeah,
I mean, my time with her is completely different than her time with another partner.
yeah,
And differentiating that is, it's funny because when you're in a monogamous relationship, you end up doing a lot of things with your partner because you care about them, even if it's things that you hate doing. So
yeah. I know what you mean to an extent.
it's kind of nice to have another person there to kind of, who's like, yeah, I'm into doing that. I'd be more than happy to do that with you. And for example, like,
Yeah,
her partner doesn't like to do sappy romantic things like, walk in the snow and look at the Christmas lights, and I'm all for that. And it's like, oh my God, I've been waiting, she's like, I've been waiting for somebody to do this with my entire life, and now I have it.
yeah, exactly. And what you said about comparison as well. I mean, there's like an old saying which I think everyone knows or everyone should know, which is comparison is the thief of joy. You will never enjoy anything if you're always comparing yourself to other people. Just enjoy the thing you've got. Don't make comparisons. It's not going to do anyone any favors.
Yes, that slams it home right there.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
So next,
It's mindfulness, because if you don't, you're not going to enjoy the time that you have together with the partner, especially when it's a situation where life's busy and that time is limited.
yeah, and that's one thing I always think is that just focus on your relationship with your partner. Like, it doesn't matter what they're doing outside of your relationship. Don't worry about like, oh, they're going this weekend, they're going out with this person, they're doing this, they're spending time with this other person. Don't worry about that. Think about what's going on with your relationship, how much time they give to you, how much time they spend with you, how much time they show they're thinking about you by communicating with you, sending text messages or anything like that. Focus on that. Don't worry about what's going on outside of it, because it's irrelevant and it's out of your control. And at the end of the day, it's kind of none of your business. Just focus on the actual relationship, what's going on between you and them, and everything outside of that just doesn't matter.
And you're right. That's exactly it. It's none of your business. And I think, again, I'm fortunate in so many ways. When I know that they have something big planned, I'll get a little package in the mail, just something stupid that I mentioned that I like, or something silly, or something fun. And it's like, okay, well, I realize that yeah, I'm important. And it's one of the things I think that a lot of people with multiple partners struggle with. It's like, am I important? Where, again, the comparisons are always pushing in there. Where am I on the scale of importance in your life?
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't matter as long as they're showing you you're important anyway. You don't need to compare that to how they're showing someone else that they're important. It's just whatever they're showing you, that's what matters. So next question I've got is, are there any myths about non-monogamy that you think are important to debunk? Like, are there things that tend to get said which you think actually that's not true? People shouldn't say that. People shouldn't think that.
I think the biggest one, and I hear this all the time, that people are just looking for a ethical way to cheat on their partner.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on that. That's something I see quite a lot.
And I've seen cases, I being in the kink community, I have a lot of friends who are non-monogamous, and I have for years. And I had kind of gotten a bad taste in my mouth because I had seen that happen. I had seen partners who were coerced into a non-monogamous lifestyle because they didn't feel they had an option and that they were going to lose their partner.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something I see quite a lot as well, is that people people that are against non-monogamy say like, 95% of non-monogamous relationships fail. Non-monogamy doesn't work. Most non-monogamous relationships fail. And I think, yeah, but also don't most monogamous relationships fail?
As someone coming from two failed marriages, I absolutely agree. And like I said, this is the most secure I've ever felt.
Exactly. And that's one thing that I always say is, how many people, if you talk to anyone of your friends, family members, anyone you know, anyone on the street, and say, do you have an ex? Do you have an ex-partner? Majority of them are going to say yes. So that means they've had a failed monogamous relationship at some point. Does that mean monogamy is completely bad and should never be done? And it will always fail? Of course not. So why is it that people read about some non-monogamous relationships failing and then they jump to the conclusion of that non-monogamy never works?
And I think another, especially, I don't know what it's like in the UK or other countries. Here, I think there's a segment of the population that compares it to, what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, it's early here. To bigamy.
Yeah.
Where it's, a man with, but, it's just a man who wants multiple wives and who, they basically compare it to being misogynistic.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something you always see in film and TV. Like, how often have you seen there's a man who's, married to a woman, but then he also has a mistress, or he's also having an affair. And that's become so normalized that I think when people hear non-monogamy, that's what they think of, because that's the closest door they have to non-monogamy from what they've seen throughout their lives. Because non-monogamy as a whole isn't really talked about. It's not really in the zeitgeist. It's not on TV. It's not in films. It is starting to be now in small places. Probably not as well as it should be done, but generally that's what people think. They think, oh, okay, so you're non-monogamous, so that means you're cheating on someone or you're having an affair, because that's the only version of it they know.
And it's funny because my friends who look at me like I'm crazy and how can I be in a relationship with someone who has a nesting partner, have had no qualms about cheating in the past.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing, that especially a lot of people, that if you tell someone you're non-monogamous or you're polyamorous or whatever, most monogamous people would say, oh, I can't do that, or oh, don't you get jealous? And I think, don't project your own jealousy and insecurities onto me just because you would feel that way about your partner, say, seeing other people. It doesn't mean I feel that way. But like you say, these people they don't like the idea of non-monogamy. Oh no, how can you do that? I don't like the idea of my partner seeing someone else. I don't know how you can live like that. But while they'll happily go out and cheat, and they're doing it to their partner, but they don't care. But they don't want it to happen. They don't care what their partner would feel, but they don't want it to happen to them, which again, yeah, is
So
It
interestingly
kind of
enough, I
seems
think I learned from my
it's not always
father,
been
and
that.
until I got into this relationship, it didn't click with me. My father's been married multiple times. With his third wife, um, they were kind of stumbling through some things, as it happens when you have, you're getting older and you have adult children who are throwing a wrench into your marriage and other things. And he started practicing ethical non-monogamy, and everyone became, their happiness just increased greatly. Everybody was getting what they wanted.
Exactly. And I think that's one of those things that, in time, maybe non-monogamy will be talked about more, will be known about by more people, will be more understood, and actually maybe more people find themselves in that situation where they realize that it's something that will actually help them and they could be happier with it.
Sure. And he's going on 22 years now, with his wife and his other partner. And yeah, it's been extremely successful. So my dad's been a role model of a lot of things, and I had realized that this is one of them.
Yeah, it's probably not the sort of thing most people expect to learn from their parents, but yeah, I guess having that there for you to see and witness and see it working probably makes a really big difference. So last couple of questions I'm going to ask is, if one of your monogamous friends came to you and said, I'm thinking about looking into practicing non-monogamy, what is the first tip that you would give me? What would you tell them?
Talk about everything. Communication is 100% of what makes any relationship work. But when you're adding additional people into it, everybody's got to be on this same page over what's acceptable behavior and what's not. I mean, just because you're non-monogamous and have other partners, does that mean, okay, well, if I meet somebody in a bar, I'm allowed to go grab a hotel room with her and have a tryst? Or is it, okay, well, it's okay if you two are developing a relationship, and of course there's gonna be an intimacy involved, but everybody has their boundaries, the things they feel uncomfortable with, and you have to be ready for some difficult discussions.
Yeah, definitely. And when you say communication, it really does go both ways. It's not just about you being able to tell other people what you want or what you need, but it's actually about being able to listen, being willing to listen to your partners talk about their needs and their boundaries,
Exactly.
and actually being able to take it all on board. Yeah, the communication's a two-way street. It's very much not just saying, you need to learn to open up more. You need to learn to being open to other people's inputs as well.
Maybe it was easier for me coming from the kink community, where communication is such a key component.
Yeah, to be honest, that probably could be. Yeah, you already had your foot in the door slightly with the whole communication aspect because of being a member of the kink scene. That's very likely. Yeah, but obviously, of course, not everyone has that when they're learning out. And actually, as much as the majority, or from my experience, the majority of kinky people are non-monogamous. Actually, the majority of non-monogamous people aren't kinky, so that crossover isn't necessarily always there.
But again, as you stated, it's about really looking deep inside yourself and deciding what your needs and wants are, and also what your partners are, and finding a way to make that meld.
Yeah, definitely. So I have one last final question for you, which is, if you could summarize non-monogamy for yourself in sort of 2-3 words, what would they be?
It's being able to utilize the great deal of love that we're capable of.
That was more words than I was expecting, but yeah, no, I understand the sentiment.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to narrow it down any more than that. As humans, we need love. We have a capacity to love. So,
Yeah, no, yeah, that's great. I completely understand. I completely understand where you're coming from. I think that is a really good answer. So on that note, so the end of the podcast. So thank you, Andrew, for sharing your experiences with me.
you're welcome. I'm sorry if I was too rambly. I'm very caffeinated this morning.
No, it's fine. And actually, I find that these conversations can start off slow, but they always soon pick up speed, and they tend to go places that I don't expect them to go, which is always a pleasant surprise. So it's good.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and I appreciate you having me. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. So to everyone who's listening, remember, if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, then please send an email to spinningtheteapodcast@outlook.com and follow us on social media for all podcast updates. And I will see you next time when I spill more tea on non-monogamy.